If chocolate isn't the answer, could you please repeat the question? Hello, this is Pat Coakley, and this is Podsnack's Art of the Diet, a monthly podcast that tries to give the answer to my lifelong question, how do I maintain a significant weight loss? I've had the question for maybe over 70 years. I've only had the answer for the last 10. All the episodes can be seen and heard on www.artofthediet.com. Hello, this is Pat Coakley, and this is episode 169 of Podsnack's Art of the Diet. And this month's episode, I snatched a headline. It only lasted about 24 hours, but anything weight-related always gets my attention. And even though I try to put an absolute stranglehold on any President Trump declarations, this filtered in. And it happened to be a quote by the President of the United States at a campaign rally in New Hampshire, directed at someone in the rally whom he thought was protesting him and didn't like him. And so his response was to indicate that he should be taken out. And also, as he was being taken out, he said to the audience, "Man, that man has a serious weight problem." As if he was speaking to physicians who might want to help the man. As if he was a man who had a serious weight problem himself, but just couldn't see it in himself, but could in someone else. You know, you can try to explain this whatever way you want, but the bottom line was it was meant to be humiliating. It was meant to put the man down, and it was in direct response to his perception that this man was not a lover, but a hater. Okay, so there's that comment that I'm going to weave into another comment that I read on Twitter by Roxane Gay, who is an author and speaker. It's another example of the kind of comments that in this case, another man felt free to say, but by no means is it just limited to men. Women make comments all the time. I guess apparently one of the communication aides from the White House was fired within the last 10 days because she made some comments about the president's daughter's weight. So, boys and girls all feel free to make remarks. So I'm going to just take a look in depth, or to some degree that I can take a look at these comments and see how it plays out with anybody struggling to deal with a genuine weight problem. Because, you know, a lot of comments are made about people's weight and they don't have a weight problem. It's the person commenting that has the problem. And I certainly think that's the case with President Trump, and I also think that's the case with the commentator with Roxane Gay's story. But anyway, let's get into it a little bit. I hope you find it at least interesting. This is a relatively short episode, so if you don't find it interesting, it won't be a long one. So, think about the comment, okay? Wow, that man has a serious weight problem. That's meant to be humiliating. It's meant to be a put down. It's meant to shame him, the man who was ejected out. There is no awareness that it actually shames the person saying it. It actually is humiliating to the person who says it. And the fact that the group in this event applaud this type of comment, there is that. There is that however way you want to slice it, people who overlook that sort of disrespect, these folks are involved with a pact of some sort that I have yet to fully understand, although I think I understand it, sadly, a little more than I did 2 years ago. But anyway, there's that small one-sentence remark made to a man. So let's consider the comment made to Roxane Gay. And she was either in an airport or in a hotel. And a man told her, with respect to her body, quote, "We can accommodate a lot. Our elevator holds 6 tons. And she wrote on Twitter that it took a lot of control to not burst into tears or dick punch him. "My skin is so thin," she wrote lately, "but honestly, can you blankety blank blame me?" And I thought, isn't that interesting? She reveals her vulnerability as well as her anger. And when I compare this anonymous man's remark to the President of the United States remark, they're equally loathsome, but in different ways. And I think of all the daily experiences that people who have weight issues have to deal with from anonymous people who have no stature in life or no earthly reason to comment on someone's body, but they feel entitled to do so. And in some cases, they feel they need to do so. And those are the comments that I think actually do the most damage. I think that President Trump's comments, although loathsome, he is somewhat of a cartoon character now, and his ability to hurt or humiliate, honestly, I think is now seen through the prism of this guy just has a serious problem. Whereas the guy that Roxane Gay ran into, There doesn't have to be any mental health pathology here. This could be a fine man in many ways, but he just feels that a woman's body is the subject of his commentary. And he's going to give it. And those of us that have had experiences on all ends of this continuum, either from anonymous people or from family members or friends, these are things we carry around with us, regardless, in my case, of 10 years of maintaining a weight loss. The hurts mount up. The vulnerability is there. But I also think what's so interesting about Roxanne's commentary, she added a tweet to the first one, and she said that she did what she usually does, and she wasn't happy with it, smiled weakly, and said nothing. And I think a lot of us can relate to this. When someone comes at you like that, you don't know what to say. You're hurt, yes, but you're also angry. Like, what right do you have to mention anything? But we don't know what to do, so we internalize it. A great many of us. I'm sure there are those out there that would have dick punched him, Roxanne, and God bless them. But I'm not one of them, and nor apparently are you. But I think the more usual way for women is to internalize it and to beat themselves up in the process, so that the whole challenge of doing something constructive about a weight problem becomes a whole lot more difficult, because you are beating yourself up all along the way, and all for reasons of surface looks, some cultural norm of beauty, and thinking that if you possess that body, your life would be so much better. And I had an opportunity in this past year to really think about what's important to me about maintaining a 10-year weight loss. And in the past year, I was so grateful that I had been able to maintain the weight loss. Not because I looked good or I could fit into a certain size dress or people commented nicely about my appearance and whatnot. I was just so grateful that doing the slow healing of a fractured back wasn't further handicapped by 60 more pounds. I was just grateful. It took long enough as it was. 6, 7, 8 months. And I can't imagine how much further it would have taken, or how much more difficult it would have been on my day-to-day life had I had that weight. So I had a totally different view of the weight loss. Yes, you're doing something healthy for yourself, but I don't know about you, that doesn't have real staying power for me in terms of a motivation. But the ability to be more independent and to be a real ally in the healing process as much as I could be really made an impression on me. And I began to look at the aesthetic issues and the appearance issues as really not the number one, not even the number two. It just simply is that. It is appearances. But the most I was grateful for was that simply my existence was made easier physically by having the weight off. So I must say that now that it's healed and I am a little back to normal in terms of being able to be active and whatnot, the weight control issues, the portion control police, all of these things reappear. And in my mind, the aesthetic thing comes back. And I'm constantly having to say, really? Didn't you put that to rest this past year? That really isn't the reason to manage your weight. Yes, it's a nice side issue, but it's not the main issue. But it was surprising to me how quickly all of that came back once the immediate health crisis, although immediate, it was 6, 7, 8 months, had passed. So I think these comments that are made over the course of our lives and over the course of when we have a weight problem and when we don't, it just triggers something. It stays with you, and you simply need to root this voice out and see it for what it is. I have found it personally very helpful in the meditation practice to be more compassionate with myself, as I think I've mentioned previously, and restarting the whole weight management habits and whatnot, and doing it without pointing the finger and being critical and being judgmental, but just simply accepting that this is an issue for me, and I feel better when I manage it. Absolutely. And so I found it very helpful to practice that sort of self-talk as opposed to the finger pointing and critical nature that this culture just seeps into anybody dealing with a weight issue. And the other reason that I want to end with this, that if you think finger pointing helps you in your weight journey, it might. For a while, it's not going to sustain you. And you'd be much better off pointing your finger at people who have no right to say to you or to do to you what is disrespectful of you. And you should stand up if you're in a crowd and voice it, or if you're one-to-one. I'm sure Roxane Gay is sorry that she didn't do something with this guy. I know I'm sorry that I haven't at different points in my life. But right now, in these times that we're in, if we let remarks go by us and smile wanly if someone else is the recipient of them, and we don't say something, Shame on us. Shame on us. We have power, and we know what's respectful and what isn't. So I'm going to leave you with that. Wish you well. I'll see you back here in October, first Wednesday in October.